Oof. Hey, what's happening? Welcome to MHTV. Big question this week. Why are Manchester United fans absolutely obsessed with Florian Wirtz? They're obsessed. Honestly, I've got evidence. Here it is.
Florian Wirtz played for Man United. The way they've been talking about him is meant.
Criticism of our players has become so normalised that you just expect it. And it isn't the case at all for other clubs, especially Liverpool.
Have you seen some of the journalists that are going, 007 about Florian Wirtz isn't fair, all this, that and the other? You f***ing pricks. How about a £120 million player called Florian Wirtz who's doing all?
I know,
he's
made this the most chance in the league. Oh, cool.
He hasn't scored or assisted.
And not only has he done nothing, it's like you watch him play, it's heavy touches, he looks slow on the ball. He's
not made for the Premier League, bro.
And he's done nothing so far. And it's just, it's fine, because he'll come good at some point, maybe.
I'm going to go with Florian Wirtz as the flop of the season.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And you know what?
Oh, you want it to go wrong.
Now look, I appreciate this is all done a little bit tongue-in-cheek, and I was with Flex when he said it on the Grosvenor Sport channel. I know Adam McCullough very, very well, and Joe seems a decent guy, and and it was a bit of like a kind of moment. And then Ste Howson. It's part of a wider point around why the media hate Manchester United, which I'm going to circle back round to. But yeah, funny, isn't it, really? And look, I'm trying my very hardest not to turn this into like a Will Smith, keep my wife's name out of your mouth kind of moment. Because, if everyone could just let Wirtz do his thing, then I'd be kind of made up with that. But there is a wider question. So last week on the channel and over on my Substack, what I did was create a list of the 21 problems that are currently plaguing Liverpool Football Club, pulled from YouTube comments and journalists and pundits and other YouTubers and other fans and all that kind of stuff. And what I sent to the discussion round last week was the idea that Liverpool have been lucky in that luck's run out. But I did say there were loads of other points. And one of them on that list was Florian Wirtz is a flop. So I thought it was worth discussing that. But I did find it quite interesting in doing the thinking around it, how many times United fans kind of cropped up on the timeline. And I get it. Look, the simple answer from their perspective is it's a lot of whataboutery. And look, whataboutery is just how modern discourse is, isn't it? From politics to sport and everything in between. Everything has to be deemed fair at all given points, and you and your bubble are always the most put upon. And it is interesting because the final point on that list of 21 was the media hate Liverpool. And I think that's an interesting discussion point as well. And it was quite interesting to watch Ste Howson's video when he talks about how the media just all hate Manchester United and they're so biased against them. And that's why there's a case of double standards going on, because he was basically saying, why isn't Wirtz being more criticised when they've paid all this money? And the money's a huge part of it. But just to stick on the sort of media bias point, because I want to talk about Liverpool's before I get on to Wirtz and whether he has been a flop or not, or whether that even matters. But the media bias stuff is interesting, because one thing I did notice was watching the Liverpool Galatasaray coverage of the Champions League on Amazon, and I think it was John Champion doing the commentary. Good guy, interviewed him years ago. He was the voice of Pro Evo, and he was dead sound. I got him to record him saying my name like it would if it was Pro Evo, so that I could insert into Pro Evo commentary. Never got around to doing that, but it was a cool thing that he did.
Okay, here we go. Machin for Liverpool! There you go, simple as that.
But Alan Shearer on colour. I've always really enjoyed Alan Shearer as a co-commentator, famously for the Liverpool-Barcelona game, the 4-0 win at Anfield. He's on the commentary team, or one of the commentary teams for that, and he's great. He's having a whale of a time, and I always thought he was a bit like Ali McCoist. Whether you think they've got incredible in-depth insight is kind of by the by. I just want people who enjoy football to watch football games and commentate on them if they're going to, because so many of them for so many years are just miserable and boring, and football analysis can be quite boring anyway, so don't be sad about it. At least gain some sort of enjoyment about the good stuff. And I thought Shearer was much more McCoist than, say, Murphy or Lawrenson. So it was really nice to hear him a lot of the time. I don't think Alan Shearer likes Liverpool very much. And look, a lot of that is because he really put his neck on the line over the Alex Isak stuff over the summer. He is a Newcastle fan through and through, so he feels a sense of personal hurt over that. He does. And you can always get, people accept it when it comes to like Gary Neville, that he doesn't like Liverpool, as much as he then purposely sort of tries to disguise it. He loves setting narratives against Liverpool. He just does, because he's in that kind of privileged position. And I'll level with you. If I was in his position of privilege, I would set narratives against Manchester United, because I have a deep-rooted dislike towards them as well. Just your upbringing. It's upbringing plus experience. But it got me thinking about the idea of people hating Liverpool, and the problem Liverpool are facing this time around is they are no longer the plucky underdogs. And as much as they were, they're one of the most disliked teams because they're one of the most successful teams. That's just how it kind of works. And we've had this for years, where teams have kind of always you'd rather Man City than ... You'd rather Man City than Manchester United. You'd rather Man City than Chelsea. You'd rather than Arsenal, than Liverpool, because they are, as much as how they are constructed and how they run is not admirable in any way, shape or form, you just know less of their fans, and they are just a more palatable option compared to a team and a fan base that you fervently dislike, as the ones I've just listed there. What Liverpool have got going for them, or got going against them this time around, is you can make a story when it's X amount of years on. It was the first time since, in over 30 years, first time in 30 years, then first time in 35 years with fans in the stadium. You can buy into a little bit of a story, but when Liverpool are back at the top table, the only way to go is down, and that's where all the narratives will skew towards, because there's much more money, an infinite almost amount of money more in Liverpool failing now than Liverpool succeeding. Not for me. Let's make that perfectly clear. My stuff does much better. You sell more merch, and you have more views, and you do, everything is just happier. People want to talk to you more. All of those things are just much better when Liverpool win, but that's us. Beyond that, look, Sky have got much more interested in a title race going down to the wire, because it means that the games pick themselves. When the title's sewn up early, you've got to try and spin narratives around the battle for Champions League football, and that's boring by comparison. There's nothing. What they want is another Aguero moments, that they really want the game to come down to the wire. Even like Tony Adams scoring against Everton, a real clincher of a goal, to kind of draw things up. They want more money in that. And again, when it goes wrong, then you can generate more clicks. And this isn't just the mainstream. This is YouTubers, and this is whatever. There is tons of thought pieces going on over the last few weeks about what's going wrong with Liverpool from loads of people who don't watch Liverpool on a regular basis and don't care to delve beneath the headlines and all that. So yes, do the media hate Liverpool? No, they don't hate. There probably is a little bit more of that, certainly when you come to the Alan Shearer arguments as an example. There's certainly more bias against them this time around. Hate's a bit of a strong word, and you always do feel like the world's kind of got it in for you, and that is exacerbated massively so when your football team is winning games, because there's always a constant merry-go-round. There is a musical chairs of, basically who gets the shoddy treatment or the shitty end of the stick, or whatever you want. And in the days of there being 4 Champions League places and then 5 good teams, whoever's outside the top 4 at any given point is the team that week that gets absolutely nailed. So it was great fun for us when Liverpool had won every game and Arsenal looked like they were slipping up. That was fabulous. That was absolutely great. And in addition to Man United being consistently rubbish, just great, just absolutely delicious. But when the shoe's on the other foot, feels bad, and it can certainly feel like there's a little bit of a pile on. So there is that. But I did find it interesting that Ste Howson talks about a bias against Manchester United, and some of that is a lingering thing of them being so good for so long, but it's actually a bias almost of their own making, because there are so many Manchester United players who won it all in the media, and Neville and Keane are prime amongst them. Neville, I think, takes it very personally. Roy Keane doesn't. Roy Keane knows his role, and he knows his role is to play that role of a sneering ex-professional who just thinks so little of everything that football team's doing. And I recognise that behaviour, and any Liverpool fan of a certain age will recognise it, because that's exactly what happened to us in the 90s and early 2000s, when Hansen and Lawrenson, were on Match of the Day every week. Alan Hansen was the premier pundit in British football coverage. And of course we had a few others sort of spattered around, but what it was a bunch of guys who'd seen that team at its absolute best, and then now all of a sudden are not connected to the football club, being paid to give their opinion on a football team that is nowhere near as good as the one they played for. So if there is a bias against Manchester United, it's just unfortunate. There is money in Roy Keane being a bit of a dick about Manchester United, and there is money in Gary Neville cry arson about things not going well for them, etc., etc. So yeah, that kind of is what it is. Just to relatively quickly tick one off our 21 list there. Let's get back to Florian Wirtz though. Has Florian Wirtz been a flop? Let's just do this by the numbers. Let's start off and go through it. I have taken, you know what matters to me when I write things down on paper. I tell this flop or not. So far, 10 appearances for Liverpool, all competitions. Now that does include the Community Shield, and that's important in a second. He's made 8 starts in that time, 728 minutes of football, which basically amounts to 8.1 90s that he has played for Liverpool. Now, very simple point from me. If you think that effectively 8 games of football is enough to label someone a flop, then this video probably isn't for you. You've probably turned off long before that, and maybe you've tried the channel before and you're not even here, so I'm not even talking to you because you're not here. But yeah, as far as like having nuanced discussion about things goes, yeah, for a 22-year-old new to the league, albeit one who has got a hefty price tag over his head, I can't help but feel that 8.1 games of football is a little soon to be categorically saying that a player can't do it. And of course, going back to those United fan clips of like a lot of like, oh well, he hasn't got the physicality for the league, etc., etc., etc. There's lots of examples that disprove that. It's about being just good at football and finding your feet and finding a way to make it work. And what you often find is the best players come through adversity because they've had to face a lot of adversity, and you actually don't become a top player without coming a cropper and then having to drag yourself back in. Florian Wirtz's big one, of course, is having a major knee injury and then coming back and being an absolute superstar off the back of it as well. It's interesting that in this past weeks of the international break, you've seen Julian Nagelsmann coming out in defence of him and kind of saying, look, his numbers are there. The numbers don't even tell the whole story. Terrific player to be fine. Jurgen Klopp calling him a once-in-a-century talent, which is high praise and obviously something that should really ring true with Liverpool fans and hopefully give him a little bit more time to bed in or whatever. But those are the very real realities. To go a little bit deeper in terms of the numbers, there was a stat doing the round about his creativity, which was a little bit skewed by it being all comps and therefore him playing more games than Jack Grealish as an example. So let's look at what is for real in terms of him. In the Premier League, he is 8th in the Premier League for shot creating actions per 90. That's 4.48, which is fine. Is he the best in the Premier League? No, he's not. But he was in that clutch of things, which is a reasonable starting place. For the sake of completeness, the ones above him are Oscar Bob, Elliot Anderson, Bukayo Saka, Jack Grealish, Amad Diallo, Jeremy Doku, and Bruno Fernandes, who sits on top with 6.18 shot creating actions per 90. So with a couple of sort of weird ones in there, Elliot Anderson being a little bit of a standout for me in that one, Bruno Fernandes, Doku, Grealish, Saka, pretty decent company to be keeping in that regard, right? Yeah. Taking it to his Liverpool stats, key passes per 90, 2.5. Only Rio and Gamoa has more than that for Liverpool. Passes into the penalty area, 1.81. Only Salah, Jones and Robertson have more than him in that. Less rosy is the fact that he's got no goals and only 1 assist. And that 1 assist actually comes in the Community Shield. And I've long stood for the idea that the Community Shield isn't something that you should really be holding up. But look, fine. Based on the all competitions thing, his expected assists is 0.15 per 90 in the Premier League. He's played 5.2 90s in the league so far. That ranks him the same as Alexis McAllister, Dominic Szoboszlai and Curtis Jones. So no worse than his peers within the side, although, of course, let's caveat it, he's expected if not in the stats, to be beyond that, because that's what he's been bought for. It is, though, the same expected assists per 90 as Tierney Reinders and Oscar Bob at Manchester City, and it is better than Antoine Semenyo and Morgan Gibbs-White, who I actually think are probably those four reasonably. Maybe Reinders is a little bit of a deeper player, but again, not for me to sit here and go, well, therefore he's brilliant. This is not what I'm doing here. I'm just putting a little context around the numbers that he is putting down so far. For what it's worth, Gakpo is Liverpool's best in terms of expected assists per 90 at 0.36. Jack Grealish is on 0.38, and both have got 6.2 90s in the league, so they both played effectively a whole other game of football, but they are producing far more solid in terms of expected numbers, and obviously Grealish is coming through. He's had a really good start to the season for Everton as well. The big questions then, has he scored enough? No. Has he assisted enough? No. Has he thrilled on a consistent basis? No. No, he hasn't. The big question mark around all of this is going to be obviously the amount of money that Liverpool paid and the weight of expectation that comes with that. We spent all summer long hyping about what a wonderful move it was, what a coup to effectively steal a march on Bayern Munich and Manchester City for his signature, and all of those all remain factors, of course, and should all be seen as positives for Liverpool when you consider that they were clearly in the market for that type of player. And I've said it previously, and it's worth restating. I think Ryan Cherky was another one who was in that mould, who would have been on Liverpool's list, but they clearly looked at that and thought, well, Wirtz is the best of that, so let's start shopping at the top of the market for a change, which I totally agree with, and hopefully ultimately in terms of that strategy works out, because if that strategy doesn't work out, then we are back to, well, you're looking for Moneyball signings again, and that's cool. I think you need to have that, certainly, but it would be really nice if Liverpool, the first foray into the real top end of the market in a long old time, probably since, Virgil van Dijk and Alisson Becker, does bear dividends and does bear fruit in the same way that those two signings did, because I don't want them to be put off from spending big money when big money needs to be spent. That's certainly worth considering. I mean, my real problem in this is in terms of the fee, and I know this is where a lot of the criticism comes from other people. Flex in particular was like, would they spend so much money? And so, like, how does he not be a flop? What kind of return are you looking for? Now, I do remember having conversations about Jack Grealish, and when Jack Grealish isn't performing as a fan of another club, you're very quick to go £100 million. Whereas, as though, because it's just a sticky, you're just looking to basically get a rise out of rival fans, aren't you? That's the reality of it. You don't really care. I don't really care how much they spend for a player. It's not my money. It's not even the fans' money. But if you're looking for something to really get under someone's skin, it is it's real low-hanging fruit of banter potential to talk about that. So that is a thing, and that's what the external pressure of that transfer fee is, because the media have got the knives out, and rival fans and social media and all that kind of stuff can create loads more noise and negativity than really is warranted. It does, of course, sort of lead to the question of, what's the ratio? So what is the ratio on what you're looking for? So if you're looking to be for goals and assists and ultimately to be wowed and thrilled by these type of attacking players, what is the ratio next to the value? So, and by that what I mean is, like, how much are you looking for from 100 million and 116 million with add-ons? Because if it's a ratio, then really the most ever. You're looking for the most goals and assists and thrill ever from a midfielder in Premier League history. That's basically unlikely to happen, right? What you want from him is to, basically for me, is to enter that pantheon of really, really good players, whether they cost loads of money or not. And right now, no, that's not happened. There have been certainly decent moments. The pass that he plays to Mohamed Salah coming off the bench against Chelsea is just stunning. And if that goes in, you're looking at that as like a goal of the season contender. It's not his fault that Salah takes the shot on right-footed and misses it by an absolute mile. cool. He has a chance to score a goal against Crystal Palace and he puts it right at the goalkeeper, if that's on him, you know. So these are things. There's certainly, ultimately what I'm driving at, there's loads of room for improvement. He's a very, very talented footballer, but we live in a culture that demands immediate success. Otherwise, you are basically shite. And I don't think that he's shite. I think he's quite good, but I could really do with seeing more of that from him on a consistent basis because, hey, you know, I just want Liverpool to have the best players on the pitch and win. I don't really care whether it's him or not. I just want someone to be on the pitch. I want 11 lads out there who are performing really well and helping Liverpool to win football matches. And that means that if that happens and it doesn't include Florian Wirtz and Alexander Isak, then there will have to be an inquest into it. Whereas a bit like last season, I wasn't really thrilled with how Liverpool achieved lots of the wins in which they did it. I didn't enjoy it anywhere near as much as I did some of the seasons of failure under Jurgen Klopp, but the outcome was so good that by the end you don't really give a shit how it was achieved. And maybe this will be a bit of it. Is there going to be a breakout moment for him where it's like, hey, Premier League, I've arrived, here I am, or will it be a bit of a slow rise? One of the things Paul Tompkins has been talking about on the Tompkins Times, look at the midfield rebuild from a couple of seasons ago. You know, it took Szoboszlai, McAllister and Gravenberch a whole season really to find the foot. McAllister's good, Szoboszlai starts well, but look at Gravenberch and Szoboszlai in particular now, is that they've come on leaps and bounds, but it's taken them a couple of seasons to really get to that sort of level. And McAllister obviously is struggling a little bit at the moment, but we know he's at that level, but then he's older and more experienced as a footballer, so it may take him a little bit of time. He will never be afforded time outside of Liverpool because of things like the media bias that we talk about. So it's up to us as Liverpool fans to make sure that he gets the support, that he makes sure that, you know, we don't turn on him and make his life any more difficult than it needs to be. Arne Slot sets a very, very high bar of expectation. He is a very strict man when it comes to that bar, and we see that in how he's been talking about footballers who have slipped below it in recent weeks. I trust Liverpool and their coaching staff are not coming in and giving him an easy ride. And on the flip side, I don't expect us to blindly sing his name when he's not done anything to deserve it yet, but more, just let him crack on with his game. There'll be plenty of other people doing good things to distract our positive attention in the meantime, and just let's hope that he just gets on and turns into an absolute world beater. Starting with Manchester United would be absolutely splendid if you could do that, Florian, but whatever. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on Flo in the comment section underneath. I was lucky enough to interview him the other week, and it reminded me. So they play a portrait with AXA. That's on their YouTube channel now, by the way. Just watch it if you haven't seen it. It's a good old show. It was him and Jeremy Frimpong. And I often find this with footballers. You don't realise how young they are sometimes. And listen, maybe you are a very outgoing and gregarious 22-year-old. Maybe you've got more personality than you can fit into a normal 22-year-old life. But what I saw from him, and even Frimpong, who's a big character, even he was a little young. And I got that sometimes. I remember seeing that with a few players. I remember interviewing Trent Alexander-Arnold when he was very young, when he was probably 18 or 19. And he could barely hold eye contact. Now he's got a bit more swagger about him. He's a grown-up. And that's the thing about Wirtz, is that he's clearly got a belief in his footballing ability, and the people who are in football have got belief in that, but there is more to being a footballer sometimes, and sometimes lads do just come in and hit the ground running and are absolutely stellar. Hugo Ekitike seems to be one of those guys. Sometimes it comes about in different ways. You know, it depends how much time you're personally prepared to give a footballer, and ultimately, even that doesn't really matter. It's how much Arne Slot is prepared to, and how much Liverpool's team are prepared to. And, you know, they buy players for 5 years, not for 1 year, and all that kind of good stuff. Hopefully, if it's not this year, it'll be something in years to come. We'll look back and laugh that this was ever a conversation, but sometimes things take a little bit longer to come to the boil than the other. But as long as the whole works for Liverpool, then this should be less concerning. But we'll see in the coming weeks, because they've lost 3 on the bounce, and they could really do with putting that right, because everything else will feel better, and we'll have loads more patience with it, won't we? Yeah. Right. More on all of this stuff over on my Substack page. If you haven't checked it out, I'll link to it below. It is called Mage Publishing. It's magepublishing.substack.com. The full 21 list is there with some more detailed thoughts on it as well. If you haven't checked out the last video, do that as well. out. And I have sent my very first ever novel to print. I'm waiting on news of that. I will give you guys some more details on that in the coming weeks. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, for subscribing as well if you haven't done so already to Mage TV. If you've got more, come and check out the Substack. It powers everything now that we do here on the Mage sort of thing. So yeah, it's completely free to sign up for that one. There's some free articles, a couple a week I'm doing at the moment, and there will be a paid offering there as well if you can be asked. But other than that, thank you so much. And yeah, keep smiling. Thoughts below. Next one.